Minecraft speedruns are defined by their goal of killing the dragon. However, she is the last of her species, and so this is a genocide. Logically, in the same way that people speedrun things like all cakes or all swords, we should speedrun as many war crimes as possible, and so here is the list. Let's see how many we can get below our belt as fast as possible. Okay, let's start and let's get right into this, most importantly with some food, but let's talk about how war crimes even exist, because surely war itself is where you admit there are no crimes and you start to do very bad things to each other, and for most of history that's just been the case. You do whatever you want within the confines of war. However, as total war became more and more of a thing in the early 20th and 19th centuries, we started to realize more and more we needed a set of rules as to what we could and couldn't do, and the big kickstart to making sure they were actually ratified by all countries is when the big bad man did the G word, and we all don't like the G word, it's definitely terrible, unless you're speedrunning Undertale or Minecraft, in which case it can be the objective of the game. In the post-war kind of consensus where we all had this idea that the things that happened in Germany at the time were very, very bad, we wrote a collection of agreements about what is and what isn't okay in the terms of warfare, and although different state signatories to different versions of the Geneva Convention, we all generally have the same agreement and rules that these very broad categories are bad, and there's lots such as, targeting civilians unnecessarily or use of poison weapons, and so there are lots of things that even though war is this bad thing that we don't want and very much is technically banned, there are these things within war that are significantly worse than just war itself, which is an interesting way to do things. It's like, I guess you could argue that killing people is already illegal, but also owning weapons and brandishing weapons that could kill someone is also illegal, and then also buying or selling weapons that someone could use so they could hold a weapon and then kill someone is also illegal. It seems unnecessary, but yeah, we all kind of do it and we all justify it anyway. I guess a better example might be hitting someone with your car is illegal, but also it's illegal to drive without the necessary training so that you don't hit someone with your car. And it's like, well, can't we just make one of those things? And yeah, as a society, we all agree that you need both of those somehow. And so that applies to war crimes too. War is itself often a very illegal, at the very least, unethical thing, but there are directly unethical things to do within war, and let's see how many of those we can achieve. Obviously, genocide is a big one we could go for here with the Ender Dragon, but I'm going to go for the nice niche war crimes to hopefully teach you about what exactly, is not okay in a real world war. So what I'm doing right now is bad in that I'm attacking, a kind of, we could say, innocent target, right? I mean, the Iron Golem didn't pick the fight with me, I picked a fight with him, and I'm going to use that to literally kill and take away the things that belong to him, which is very brutal, and this is some definition of war or fighting or whatever else you want to call it, but it's okay, because I needed to do it. On the other hand, now there is an entire village of defenseless civilians around, and this is where the war crime aspect can come in. Attacking civilians is directly, but for no direct reason, is a war crime. This is not okay, and so we can bring our total up to 1, because even though killing civilians can demoralize the enemy forces, and maybe you could argue could bring the war to a sooner end, we've decided the military, justification versus the just how much this horrifies us as a society ratio is just nowhere near justifiable, and so that is a full-on war crime. Wait, I'm gonna go ahead right here and make sure I kill the sheep, because I want to take full advantage of as many I want to get as many war crimes as I can in here. 1 war crime in 7 minutes is not impressive. Yeah, lava is such a useful tool here, not because we can use it to make a portal, like in a regular speedrun, but instead because I can take it back to the village and commit our second war crime of the day, because again, these are distinctly civilians. Even if I try to attack them, you see they don't attack back, they just get upset and they're like, oh man, big mean military man comes at me with lava. But here's the thing, if you are to commit unnecessary atrocities and offenses against the civilian population, including not just murder, but destruction of property. So this is our second war crime committed. So this is wanton and unnecessary destruction of civilian property. During a war, you are strictly limited to military targets, not just in the sense of you have to make sure... Where did my lava go? Did it just vanish into those stairs? Not just in the sense that you have to make sure that you attack military enemies and combatants, etc., but also you can't just be destroying random civilians. For the exact same logic of, sure, you could probably, you know, ruin where the soldiers are coming from or something, but you can only attack targets if there is a strict military purpose and justification for it. Sometimes this is kind of bent because you could argue there's always a military purpose for a thing, but this is very distinctly something that is a war crime if you do it without permission. The third one I want to do right here is going to be a little bit of a hard one to line up, but let's hope that I can. Oh god, I just got chemical attacked by a witch. Did you know the use of chemical weapons in warfare is strictly prohibited? They probably would be very, very effective if we were to employ them, especially with our knowledge today, because instead of having to drop bombs or use bullets to kill people, you could just drop a lethal gas over the battlefield and every single enemy soldier would die. However, most ways of killing using lethal gases are generally considered to be deeply inhumane, which again seems hypocritical when you consider that, wait, so we're allowed to, you know, use bullets, which slowly cause you to bleed out, but we're not allowed to use gas, which will near instantly kill you? Well, I mean, first of all, near instantly is definitely not accurate. Look, the witch is now committing war crime over and over again against the zombie here. I wonder who wins this fight. You know, let's watch it while I explain that, yeah, we have outlawed the use of chemical weapons in all contexts, and so that's why when it was reported, whether in Syria or in Russia, oh, yeah, looks like the witch couldn't win even with the chemical weapons. That's why it's a very, very big deal, because committing war, you know, very bad. Committing war crimes, now that is something the world needs to get on board with enforcing, right? And so that is why chemical weapons, they've been stockpiled in many circumstances. For instance, Imperial Japan at the very end of World War II were considering using them to defend the mainland, but it never came to that in the end. And yeah, just life pro tip. Chemical weapons be very bad, but the United States and many other countries which promise not to use them do still have stockpiles just in case someone uses the chemical weapons against them, which feels as though that's a bit of a dangerous game to play. But point being, third war crime committed. Okay, it's time for war crime number 5 now, right after we get a skeleton to slowly kill a villager. This isn't a war crime, it's just not very nice of me. You know, pro tip. You ever worried about getting hit by Minecraft's most annoying generic hostile mob? You just gotta get a friend to take the damage for you. Did you know, by the way, it's also a crime to falsely use a flag or to falsely surrender? And so when I place down the French flag on the ground here to indicate my surrender, this is technically I would argue we're not at war with anyone right now. But later, well, you know, this is distinctly combat, right? Me and this skeleton are going right at it, and I'm gonna save my villager from the horribly hostile skeleton, and then I'm gonna put him in a boat. This is perfectly normal, and is my way of saving the villager from his own village. In fact, yeah, I've decided that I don't want the villager to live in his own village anymore, because I would prefer that he didn't be there because it benefits me. This actually a war crime, because deportations, forced deportations, are the deeply, deeply, deeply illegal, by the way. Oh. Yeah, that probably counts as torture and or dangerous. You know, experimental weapons probably weren't the smartest thing to use right there. But let's try this again, shall we? Come back, villager. I want to get you in my boat. I'm just saying, it looks a lot to me like he's making chemical weapons over there. So, really, because he's committed his own war crimes, it's totally okay for me to push him out right here. Let's go. You're gonna run, and then you're gonna get trapped in a boat over here. And then we're gonna ride you out to sea. So yeah, forced deportations are a war crime because you are not allowed to take a civilian population and take them out of their home. This is very similar to genocide, just a little bit, I guess, less unfriendly, but still not in a very good way. But basically, you can't just decide because a population is inconvenient for you in a place that you'll get rid of it. This is, again, vastly, mostly just looking at what the bad H-Man did in the 1930s to 1940s and kind of looking at it again, because his whole idea was, what if we got rid of all of the native population of this giant area here, and we replaced it with the German people, literally calling it the living space. It's a horrifying thing, and this has happened so many times throughout history. Sadly, it's not a war crime, but it happened inside of the Soviet Union quite infamously, time and time again. There's a reason that There's a reason a lot of native populations don't have homelands anymore, because they were just deported to the mountains in Central Asia, because that's what you do with peoples who cause you issues. You deport them to mountains, and you're not actually meant to, but you know what? It's not going to stop me from leaving you at a mountain, Mr. Villager, and committing another war crime. Yeah, we're on a roll today. I'll tell you what's not a contravention of the Geneva Convention, though. Sick Minecraft water bucket strats. Let's ignore that I took damage there, because I did place the water dam where I landed, so that's most of the battle. Okay, I'm desperate to find a second village so we can tick off a few more war crimes while that 30-minute mark is still quite far away. We've got 11 minutes. I'm sure we can do it if we believe in ourselves. But yeah, while we do that, I should mention, kind of in relation to that whole Soviet thing, it's a fun reminder that sadly, war crimes, despite the fact that we've made decent advancements, we've all started to agree what they are and how they should be enforced and stuff, they do still happen somewhat frequently. Whether it's because you can commit war crimes against yourself, and they're not war crimes, they're just internal crimes, which, sadly, is why we need to have the separate crimes against humanity definition, and that's why there are human rights that are guaranteed by the UN that also aren't guaranteed by the UN. Hate to break it to you, but I live in a developed country and I don't have all of these rights, so I bet a lot of people on Earth don't have all of these perfectly guaranteed for them. But also, there's kind of the issue of, who does enforce these things, and so sadly, war crimes are not a thing which are generally enforced on the victor, but are enforced instead as a form of public humiliation against the loser, which, fun fact, is kind of a contravention in its own self of the whole war crime idea. The idea being that combatants in a war are just combatants in a war, trying to do their best thing. And ultimately, this is just our current iteration of how war works. This is our current belief in how to do it. We've had so many weird versions of a history, which sound like they make no sense when you think about them through modern lenses, right? I mean, the very idea that, like, back in the day, the king would be on the battlefield with his men, and if the enemy defeated his army, they would just capture him and then they'd send him back, because he's the king. You don't kill the king, he was sent directly by... Can you think about how insane that would be? If we put, Boris Johnson on the battlefield, I hate to say it, I don't imagine they're going to be like, well, I mean, in Afghanistan, they're going to be like, well, I guess, but he's the prime minister. He was appointed by Czech's notes, the British people. It's not gonna go the same way. Or to make that joke to a more wide audience, Joe Biden's at on the front lines in Ukraine. The Russian soldiers aren't going to be like, yes, we will return him immediately. This is my very good Russian accent. I am doing it quite well because I have been taking English classes in America. There you go. Hope you enjoy a little bit of subtle accents mixed in with your war crime video now. Yes, finally, another village. But yeah, in the same way that what we do now seems a bit inhumane in some ways and seems a bit like fancifully thinking, like, yeah, you can't enforce war crimes properly on people who don't lose a war. It is ultimately better than just not, right? I think war is this ultimate max level human tragedy that, of course, goal number one should be to avoid at all costs. But if we can do things to mitigate when war does happen, at least make it less viable for people to do these bad things, then why don't we? If you could say that, like, well, it's not going to make a difference to me using chemical weapons if whether it's a crime or not. It's enough to make people reconsider and to make their people question whether they really are the good guys after all. And isn't that enough? Maybe not. Who knows for sure. But here's my second village. Let's tick off some more crimes. Okay, here's my new plan to double up on my war crimes against the Iron Golem. I'm sneaking in as if I am an enemy combatant. I'm pretending to be on their side, and then I'm going to commit some sabotage from the inside, wearing the flags of the wrong nation. Again, I've got the surrender nation. I am je suis français. See, it's a joke about the French way surrendering. Very high quality meme. But now we attack from behind, and oh god, that didn't work perfectly. But you get the point. We've just attacked under a hostile flag, and things are working well. If we just ignore these frame rate issues that have come from nowhere. Okay, I'm going to commit a nice, easy twofer right here. 2 war crimes for the price of 1, because 2 separate war crimes, one of which is looting civilian targets, the other of which is pillaging. I would argue I'm pillaging the village right now, taking their valuable, stuff and getting it for myself, as well as looting. I think that's 2 war crimes for the price of 1. You let me know if you disagree. And so, wow, we are making some real good progress. Also, we're going to make use of some more non-standard weapons. We're going to take a biological bomb, maybe, if we can find one, and we're going to activate it directly against the villagers. Again, not against just the property, but against the villagers themselves. Here is a villager. Here is a creeper. Let's see if we can make them friends. Cluster bombing civilian targets is distinctly not okay because of their very, very non-precise nature. And so when we explode this villager straight out of his bed and leave him homeless, that's considered not okay, given it was a targeted attack against a civilian. Well, I mean, he's not actually that distraught about it. Well, I'm glad he's got a sense of humor. Okay, 3 minutes left to go. What can we pull off? I guess what I did before technically wasn't a cluster bomb, so just to make sure we do this correctly, there we go, that's a cluster bomb. My bomb blew up another bomb. Hope you're happy with it, because I'm gonna get to sleep now. Okay, come on, I can do this. We've got a minute left to pull off my final bad deed. I really think I can do this. 35 seconds to go. My final target, if you're curious, is I learned just recently, while skimming through this list just before the end, that forced pregnancy, in fact, there's a whole bunch of very sad things on there, but forced pregnancy is against a civilian population is distinctly not okay. That is non-active war that you are allowed to use. And so, I hate to break it to you, but I think most Minecraft players have been committing the crimes this whole time. What are you doing outside the house, buddy? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to force them into a hole together, where I'm then going to give them food, thus forcing their pregnancy. Did I do it in time? I did not. We almost finished off the beautiful 10 war crime list that we were going for there. So sad, but that is what we can do in 30 minutes regarding war crimes. Obviously, oh, that's so cute. They go on the boat together. I hope they're going to have some good babies now. Oh, that's nice. He keeps changing profession to make the most of his thing. We did a good job at trying to get the forced pregnancy one down. We can't always be perfect. We can't always get a perfect sheet going. How many of these war crimes can you commit in Minecraft? Obviously, you probably shouldn't find out. I think it's a fun reminder of 2 things. One is the fact that, yeah, even though we live in a relative time of peace and prosperity, still bad things happen, even amongst the framework of what we allow as bad things to happen. Also, those bad things still are happening, but we do our best to stop them, which is a good thing as a species. But the other thing is a reminder that, yeah, these things are objectively war crimes that we did in Minecraft. But obviously, Minecraft is a game where committing something as atrocious as genocide, forced pregnancy, or poisonous weapons are just a par for the course. Like, video games are not this thing that can cause mass harm. I'm not going to go out right now and be the next dangerous person, because here's the scoop, right? I think that in video games we can live out fantasies, and we can do things that don't. I guess living out fantasies is a bad thing to say for war crimes. In video games, we can do things we wouldn't do in the real world, and it's totally fine because we know it's a different thing. It's a way to make objectives more fun and interesting. And to this day, no one has cited their dictatorial aspirations on Minecraft. We'll have to see if that changes. Maybe it will. For now, I hope you all enjoyed this video, because I'll see you all in the next one. Goodbye. Oh, look at that salmon. Yeah, that is why we did this on... Look, this is why we play Bedrock, by the way. Everyone always asks, so what's the deal? Look at the size of these salmon right here. Do you get salmon this big on your version? I bet you don't. And that should be a war crime, but we're still legislating on making sure it is one. But one day, one day. Also, this villager skin is so weird. Why is his head so tiny?